we were on the boat when we were on the parade, and I said, I turned to Ellie, I said, not bad for two Division III guys, huh? And we gave each other a big hug.
Dave Bolger here, and welcome to Had I Known, a show that explores the journeys of some of the most interesting members of the Hamilton College community. This week's guest is Joe Gilbert, class of 1987. Hey, welcome back for another one. I gotta be honest, I'm excited about this one. I've mentioned before that when I was at Hamilton, I thought the dream was to do this and talk about sports on the radio. And when I got to talk to Guy Bear, it was like a dream come true for me. And now here I am, talking to a Super Bowl champion, just weeks removed from hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. Joe Gilbert, class of 1987. Joe is the offensive line coach for the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I had a lot of fun talking to him about his experience coaching in and winning a Super Bowl. Yes, I asked him about working with Tom Brady, but I was also interested in hearing about his path from Hamilton College, a small Division III school, all the way to winning a Super Bowl. And as it is for most who get into the profession of coaching football, it has been a journey for Joe. 25 years at the collegiate level, 10 different stops along the way, before joining the Indianapolis Colts, where he coached for 6 years. He did one more stint in college for a season before joining the Buccaneers 2 seasons ago. So not only did he reach the highest level of his profession, but then reach the pinnacle of that profession. It's a great story. I was excited to talk to Joe not only because he just won the Super Bowl, and how cool is that, but I've long had a respected admiration for football coaches. Having played the sport growing up, I played for some great coaches. And then for a short time after Hamilton, I was fortunate enough to coach at the high school level with a fellow Hamilton alum and former guest of this show, Jeff Michael. And working on Jeff's staff for a couple of years, I developed a new and even bigger respect and admiration for coaches and teachers, really, because I'll never forget the first time I worked with a player. It was a linebacker, and we were getting ready for a game, and I picked up by the fact that the other team's quarterback was telegraphing where he was going if he was going to throw to the tight end. And I said to the linebacker, if he drops back and he's looking this way, chances are he's going to the tight end, shorten your zone. Good chance you'll have an interception. And sure enough, the first time it happened, the linebacker did exactly what I told him he should do. Boom, interception. And I remember thinking, I told him that. I did that. That was me. And that feeling was just overwhelming. So to have a chance to talk to somebody who's been doing it at a high level for 35 years was exciting for me. Now, I resisted the urge to get too in the weeds and geek out too much on the football X's and O's. So if you're not a football fan, there's much to enjoy in this conversation of just hearing a Hamilton grad's journey to the top of his profession. If you are a football fan, it gets a little football-y towards the end of the conversation. I couldn't resist. But if you're a fan at all of Hamilton athletics, if you're a fan of Hamilton at all, it's hard not to enjoy this one. So here is my conversation with Joe Gilbert, class of 1987, and a Super Bowl champion. First and foremost, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's a cheers. Wild ride, huh?
It was just from all the way through the whole, through the playoffs, everything was just, to win every game on the road. And then we had the Super Bowl at home was kind of crazy, it's usually the other way around,
Sure.
But it was great. It really was. It was, it's been a long week.
I'll bet.
But been a lot of fun.
Did it feel like a home game at all?
It did. The crowd was, without question, was in our favor. It was I would say the majority of the healthcare workers that they had there, the 7,500 were Bucks fans, which helped. And then we had without question the majority of the fans. It was pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the NFL actually did, with the COVID and only having 25,000 people in the stands and everything, they actually did a really good job because literally every seat that was not full, they put a cardboard cutout in every one. And I'm telling you, when people stood completely still, I mean, you had look, and say, oh my God, all right, there's somebody, you know what I mean? It was really kind of weird, so.
And I guess, most of the season with no fans, 25,000 fans probably felt like a decent crowd.
The energy level, you finally okay, this is playoff, kind of. Yeah, and that's the one thing I think everybody kind of missed a little bit, when you get into the playoffs, the crowds, and when we would have went to Washington or, New Orleans, those, they would have been rocking, it's just, without having anybody there, it was. And then being in that atmosphere, we actually practiced the week before we had a couple practices where we practiced with crowd noise, on both sides of the ball. Our defense had to have it in case our crowd was, loud for Kansas City and vice versa. And, early on we had to go on a silent count when we were in the shotgun, but after a while it was fine.
Well, I got to tell you, deservedly so. Tom Brady getting a lot of press, the defense getting a lot of attention. Not enough attention is paid to your crew and the job that the O-line did in dominating that game. And what a game you guys had.
Yeah, the guys up front played well. I mean, I think really we started coming in playing a lot better from right around our bye week, the last part of the season, going into the playoffs. And, and that's what you hope, I always said, a bunch of people asked me about the whole, when we got Tom and Gronk and, Leonard and, all these pieces to the puzzle. And people don't realize it. Without OTAs, without really an off season, and you're thrown right into fall camp, it takes a while to put all those pieces together. It just doesn't automatically gel,
Right.
You're trying to figure out, what is Tom comfortable with coming from New England, where he was in a system for 20 years. And now you come in a completely different system and you're trying to make him comfortable with what we're doing and the whole thing. It took some time. It really did. And Byron, our offense coordinator, he did a great job. I thought just, throughout the season, and all of a sudden, like I said, right around our bye week, we got into a great match and the guys up front started playing better. And, we just preached that, hey, listen, if you keep 12 upright and give him time, he let him do his job and mixing the run when we did. And that, we had a chance to be a pretty good team.
How do you incorporate new players into a new system in a pandemic world? Is it a lot of this on Zoom?
The whole off season last year was exactly what we're doing right now, which was weird. You know what I mean? I think the players, I use Tristan for an example, our right tackle, a rookie. He had no off season and he did an incredible job. When you think about him coming into camp, a rookie, all we did was Zoom meetings, 4 days a week and everything was limited. Everything, one thing about the NFL, regardless of what you go through, everything is equal. There is no, one team trying to get an edge on the other, here are the rules, abide by them. Otherwise it's significant fines, draft picks, and nobody's going to take a chance of doing anything like that. So when we got to the meetings, that rookie, that's all he had, so he came into camp, he had to learn a system, the speed of the game, completely different. And it was just amazing. He did a hell of a job, really did, and so, I mean, you think about it, that everybody had their individual Zoom meetings by position. And then all of a sudden you come in and you're like, okay, put the ball down, let's play. It just takes some time to get everything together. And,
sure.
And I think, I think you saw teams like Kansas City and New Orleans, teams like that had a senior group of guys, early on in the season. You could see that made sense, that they were ahead of teams like us or teams that we're putting a lot of new pieces to the puzzle together, and it just took us a while to kind of get it to mesh a little bit.
You mentioned Byron Leftwich. Much has been made about the diversity of the coaching staff that Bruce Arians has put together. Do you feel the impact of that?
I think I think for the in general, that guys should get an opportunity regardless of their race. And obviously I don't know if that is a theme that is consistent, that it does happen. You know what I mean? I think even with this last hire, you can see a lack of minority hires, and I know from being on the staff around Todd Bowles, around Byron, Keith Armstrong, Harold Goodwin, those guys are all more than capable to be leaders of NFL franchise without any question in my mind. These guys are sharp guys when you talk about them from an X and O standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. They are, quality people, and to me, I look at it from a standpoint, I've been in this business for going on 36 years now. And, to me, it's really important to get people that are good people. Obviously you got to know what you're doing in your job. And to me, Bruce Arians has put together a staff that are minority coaches, but they check off every box, and it's extremely impressive.
Mm-hmm. And then not only diversity in race, but also in gender, with 2 female coaches on the staff as well, which is pretty incredible.
With MJ and Lowe, and they're great. Yeah, I mean, you talk about they're, you forget they're just one of us. I mean, they don't. They want to be treated like that. It's not, oh, I'm a woman or anything like that. They're very, they're unbelievable at their jobs. So. Yeah. It's just kind of it's neat in a sense when you sit back, because honestly, what you asked to start off, it's doing your job every day with just good people. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not about race. It's not about gender. You're just really doing your job with a group of people that are all capable. And I think that's the fun thing, and, the rest of it is, things that obviously outside sources take a look at and pay attention to, but in the building on a day-to-day basis, it's, it's just a group of people together for one common goal. And that's what it's all about.
And I imagine, and I don't really know this personally, but I have family members who do. Once you do the type of work you do and the grind that it is, and I don't think people who don't know the game appreciate what a grind it is to be a football coach. Yeah. Imagine there's a level of respect that everyone's been through that battle. There's a camaraderie that comes along with that, I'd imagine.
Well, there's no doubt when you're in there 7 days a week for 8 straight months, right. And you don't, you get maybe 2 to 3 days off during a bye week. And that's it. You get off a plane. I forget, because the season feels like it just kind of at one point runs together, but we got off the plane from one game at 4:30 in the morning, and we all went right to the office. There is no go home and get 7-8 hours sleep and then come in, because the game's going to be played next Sunday, so you got to get your work done. You got to get the game plan in, and the players are going to come in and practice, and you better have a plan, because they're going to look at you like, what are you doing? If you stand up in front of the room and you're putting in something and they're like, you don't have anything ready. Like, you knew this game, you're going to have a full week, and it's no different playing on Monday Night Football. We were coming back from the Giants, and you're playing on Sunday, you lose a day, and so you have to work the week before ahead, and then you got to come right in off the plane and you go right to the office and you grind it out, and everybody's in there doing it together, and like you said, you have a sense of, responsibility to get your part of your piece of the puzzle done, and it's your job, And I think that that's one thing that the pressure that people don't understand that we're under. They see Sunday, the 3.5 hours of Sunday, and they say, man, what a great, what a great job that would be. They don't look at the 110 hours that you're in during the course of the week, getting the stuff done. And that's why, come Saturday and Sunday, when you get a few hours before the game to sleep in on Sunday morning, you're like, oh my God, you get a chance to catch up for like a couple hours that you felt like you slept for a month, You wake up, it's 7:00 in the morning, because the alarm goes, I get up at 4:30 and go in every day, and it's crazy.
So did you step off that boat parade and then just sleep for several days straight, or have you gotten some rest?
I had several Hamilton guys here in town through the Super Bowl with Will Anthony and Seamus Karate. Seamus, has got a place down here near me now, so we're gathered quite a bit. Bobby Colby came in. And so the night of the Super Bowl, after we won, we were up into the morning of Monday. Then we took a nap, I would say, and then we all continued to go for a while here in Tampa. We kind of laid low Tuesday, and then Wednesday, that boat parade is probably one of the funnest days I've ever had. It was so much fun. We had a team meeting in the morning to make sure everybody was up from the last 2 days and on time. And then, and then he divided us up, and I give the Glaziers a lot of credit because they did a phenomenal job getting that thing together in 48 hours. And I don't know if there was a person working in Tampa on Wednesday. It was crazy. I mean, the number of people and everything, it was really a lot of fun. And just to see the city behind, us winning, and that was incredible.
Yeah. And you, we talked about, and I want to get into it more, but your grind and your journey, when that confetti's falling down or when you're on the boat parade, you are able to enjoy and savor the win.
Yeah. It was great. Standing on the field after the game. And that's something that, when I was with Chuck Pagano at the Colts, Chuck always talked about, when he got cancer, that he wanted to, walk his daughter down the aisle and dance under the confetti. Those were two of the things that he always talked about, that, battling cancer. And to be able, we didn't get it done at the Colts, but now to have a chance to do it with Bruce and the guys here, it was awesome. It's falling on you, and it's kind of unreal that we just did this 20 games and somehow got to this point and got the win. And then my wife was on the field with me, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And, in the boat parade, to sit there and you're going down it, and I look over and I've got my wife and my 4 kids, and they're there. And my daughter was home for the Super Bowl from college. And, I got 3 boys, 2 in high school and a younger one in middle school. And they're there on the boat parade watching these, we were on with the O-line and watching these guys, and they're coming over, giving them hugs and, all that kind of stuff. It was just to be around my family and, like I said, my close friends, to celebrate this was awesome.
Was making it to the NFL always the goal?
It's funny, Dave, when we were back at Hamilton, I had an older brother, my brother George, had played college Division I football, played with the Eagles, and then played in the USFL and won a championship with the USFL. Actually here in Tampa, believe it or not. It was kind of weird. And, so football was in our family. So when I went to Hamilton, obviously it was a big part of, to me. I wasn't good enough to play Division I coming out of high school. And I said, geez, went through Hamilton and said, if I'd love to have an opportunity to play, to play at the next level. And so I go into Hamilton and, I get in playing, and it's around my junior year. And I'll never forget, and Seamus Karate, he remembers this as like my junior year. I was like, if I'm not good enough to play, I'm going to coach, and that's what I wanted to do. And the day I left Hamilton, I got a graduate assistantship at University of Albany with Bob Ford, and I went there and got my coaching career going and doing that. So it was right my junior year in at Hamilton, and I was like, it kind of hit me. This is what I want to do,
And was it just you wanted to stay close to the game, or what was there something else about coaching that attracted you?
It's funny. I had a couple high school coaches that I looked up to but it was really the guys at Hamilton. It was Mike Davis, Paul 80, Coach 80, and I had Steve Frank, Steve Stetson. I would say those four guys. And then even Sean McDonald. Sean was head coach at New Hampshire for I don't know how many years now. He was one of the assistant coaches that was with us at Hamilton under Stetson. I had some really good guys that I looked, said, hey, I would really like to get into coaching. I liked the way they handled us. I saw what they were doing. And also saw the passion and the love for the game and what they did on a daily basis, watching them. And I was like, man, that's what I want. I want to be able to go to work and love what I do every day. And I honestly can say there's not too many days I've gone into work where I say it's work, that I'm fortunate that I'm doing something that I love to do. I don't mind the hours. I found my wife I found a great lady and can put up with me being gone, and all four of our kids are born in 4 different states. So it's not just my sacrifice, but it's my family's sacrifice,
Sure.
So it's been, so finding out and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do at that point. And I'll never forget that first job I had with Bob Ford at Albany. He said, take a look at the guy to your left and right of you, because 2 of you won't be here. You won't make it, in this profession, because it's just too hard, whether it's too hard on your family or moving around, and that's just part of the business.
Yeah. To that point, did you know when you decided you were going to be a coach and getting into it that it was going to be that sort of grind and moving around the country?
I did, because I knew what I always wanted to coach in the NFL. I said, if you're going to do something, why not do it at the highest level? So, and I had a different road, Dave, in the sense that I had to work my way up from Division III.
Right.
So, I sent out, I couldn't tell you how many letters and resumes at the time. And it's so hard to go from I'm playing Division III football to get a graduate assistantship at an Alabama or a Syracuse at the time. And, and it's even harder now. So my part of saying, hey, I want to do this, I knew it was going to be a little bit longer road, but in the sense that I'm glad I did it the way I did. I learned a ton, and I've coached every level of football except high school. So I've coached Division III, I've coached Division II, 1 AA non-scholarship, 1 AA scholarship, Division I, and now the NFL. So, for me, it was a kind of a process, more sense of moving up, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to go and what level I wanted to coach at. And that was, and I had friends along the way said, hey, listen, if you do this, you're going to be moving, because there's a saying in coaching, you get hired to be fired, and that's just the animal of the beast. You get hired to be the new savior of the program or organization and hopefully force them to win. And as soon as you don't produce or your winning goes from this to down, and there's a new guy coming in, it's just, that's the nature. And, I know people look at, oh man, you got fired. In football terms, the same guy, Bob Ford, I work for, if you stay in this business, 3 things will happen. You'll win them all, lose them all. You'll be fired at least once.
Does that take the sting off of it? Or is that, you just know it's part of the job?
It's part of the job, but the sting is still there. It still hurts, because this is not a 9-to-5 job at whatever level you do. So it is hard when you put everything you got into it, your family sacrifices, you move them to a city where you don't know anybody, they got to change schools, it was funny. My wife one time said to me, it's easy for me because when I walk in the door at a new job, you automatically have, 15 new friends. When she moves and the kids move, they don't know anybody. They start from scratch. And that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's that part of it is that's, I think, where the sting still hurts, when regardless of that, from a professional standpoint, it is what it is, because almost everybody you talk to at some point, if you've been in it long enough, maybe there's a few guys that are very fortunate that it hasn't happened to, but on the majority, I would say 80% of any coach at some point has been let go.
And then it's not a matter of, well, where do I want to go next and pick a city you want to live in. You got to chase the job. And that could be anywhere in the country, wherever the job may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's no different than a lot of jobs. A lot of it is networking. It's who you know, and that part of it. It was funny when we got let go at the Colts. I worked with Kevin Sumlin in 2008 at the University of Houston, and he got the Arizona job. So that's, Kevin called, and I had a couple of interviews I went through that I didn't get, and I ended up going with Kevin out to the University of Arizona. So at the time, we moved from Indianapolis all the way out to Tucson, Arizona, which is a haul, But like you said, it happens from networking. And as you get older and you go to some of these, this is a young man's kind of turning in back into a young guy's game. And, you go to a convention or a clinic or something, you look around and you're like, man, I don't know anybody anymore. All the guys I used to hang out with are retiring, so it's kind of crazy in that sense.
You mentioned the networking and building your way up from Division III. And it does seem to me that a lot of it is networking and knowing, whether it's the players you coached or the coaches you played for or coached with, and to start from Hamilton to get to where you are. How do you build that network? The ultimate goal was to get to the NFL. That's a hell of a network you got to build to get there.
I think part of it is you got to have some luck along the way, and I could, almost go through, like when I left Hamilton, Steve Frank had a great connection with Bob Ford at the University of Albany. And I remember I had an opportunity to be with Coach Ford came and they were going somewhere. And I had an opportunity to kind of be around Coach Ford for a couple of hours before I actually had a chance to interview with him. And that gave me kind of an upper hand to get in the door, you know what I mean? And that was kind of my first time of seeing how it all worked, and ended up getting hired there. Then, Coach Ford had a network with coaches at the University of Pennsylvania, and that was my second job. And I went down there. Then when I went to Northeastern with Barry Gallup, that was a shot in the dark. I mean, I actually drove from Philadelphia. I had just had a knee operation, and Pat Burke, who I played with at Hamilton, Pat was offensive guard next to me, and Pat got me in Philly and drove me to Boston. And I went through and I paid my own way up there to interview. And I interviewed with Tom Lamb, who is a legend in Massachusetts, high school football. And he was the coordinator. And then Barry Gallup was the head coach, came over from Boston College. And they didn't know me from Adam. And I got to them with somebody at Penn, got me at least to talk to them. And they're like, hey, well, if you want to get up here on your own to interview, we'll bring you in on this Saturday. Come on in. I went in, I interviewed, and I got the job. And that was a shot in the dark. And I would say that was probably the only job through anything that I didn't really know anybody, and that was a unbelievable kind of shot, and I got it. That was crazy. And then that kind of got the ball rolling, and the rest was, as you said, just guys I met along the way. The one thing I would say to anybody in any business, it never hurts to say hello to somebody, sit down and have a coffee or a beer with them, and just spend a little bit of time and talk to them. It doesn't hurt,
Yeah.
It's just kind of over the years how I met some good, really, really good people that have either helped me in my career or become really good friends of mine. And whether they're in football or out of football or whatever, I truly believe that, I think just a lot of people are just so caught up and going, and they don't take the time. And I don't have time to spend 5 minutes with you or whatever. And you don't know what you're missing out,
Right.
You really don't.
Right. How does the job change at the different levels? So you mentioned you've virtually every level you've coached at. Core elements of the job are the same, but I have to imagine when you work in the room at the NFL, it's a little different than when you're coaching at the D2 or D3 level.
Yeah. I think the biggest part from, I would say, the discrepancy between the NFL and college is really the recruiting part and the academic part. You don't have those two elements. I think when you look at college football, there's recruiting is such a big part of what they do now. It doesn't matter, Division III to Division I. Then you have the academic part that your players are going to class, and then it's the football part. So that's the kind of the football part's the same. Like you just said, it's coaching. You're on the field, and that part of it. Implementing the game plan, technique part, teaching your players. All that's relative. You know what I mean? It's kind of relative based on level and what the guys can and can't do. That's what coaching is. You try to figure that part of it out. But the other two elements that you have in college from a standpoint of, academics, which is a huge part of it, getting the guys, going to class, taking care of their business in the classroom, that part. As a coach, you're involved in that. Yes, at the Division I level, you have the academic support, you have the academic advisors, the tutors, all that kind of stuff to help them. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility as an assistant position coach to make sure your guys are going to class, they're turning their stuff in, because the head coach is going to turn around and say, hey, why aren't your guys getting it done in the classroom? Because if they're not going to play for us on Saturday. That's at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that element, and then the third element which is really big is, you would say there's a third of everything, but the recruiting part is massive. Everybody has an area you have to recruit, not just your position. You're trying to evaluate the talent level at every position, offense, defense, and then you're trying to recruit those kids. Then you got to get the other position coaches involved and the head coach involved and all of that part of it. So that's a huge, huge part as well. For me, when I went back to college in 2018 and I was out for 6 years, it was amazing how much the college game changed from 2012 to 18 from a recruiting standpoint, just because of when I left college football in 2012 from Illinois, there were still restrictions on text messaging, limitations on that, whereas all of that changed by the time I went back in for that 1 year. And then you add at that point, there's Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I'm not a social media person. I'm not on it, so all of a sudden I had to get back on that stuff. And I'm like, this is crazy, and it just added a whole new element to the recruiting part that I just was like, oh man, and there's some kids that thrive on that stuff. And they want to know if I'm going out to dinner, where I'm at and what the heck I'm eating, it's nuts, but that's just not me, I would tell some of the guys and, hey, listen, I'm going to recruit you. You have a scholarship offer here at the University of Arizona because we like you. I don't have to sit here and tell you every single day how much we want you to come play for us, but that's today's day and age, and how people kind of, as through the social media thing, to me is just, it's unbelievable.
And then it becomes the flip side is then you got to probably tell your players to stay off of it so they don't get themselves in trouble.
Amen. What's crazy, Dave, on that is there's software and there's people hired in athletic departments that they spend all day just looking at the athletes, every athlete, not just football. I'm talking, girls soccer, volleyball, everything, every athlete. They just search the websites and their social media outlets, Twitter and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, for stuff that they got to make sure that they don't put out there that's detrimental to to them or to the college or university or to themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the world we live in now,
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in the league and talking to fellow coaches or players, I imagine at some point your history comes up, and when you say Hamilton College, are people like, what?
Oh yeah. And then a lot of them it's two-faced. People that know the school are like, wow, kind of, oh, wow, you went to Hamilton,
Sure.
And then there's other people that go, oh, where's that?
Right.
Division III school in upstate New York, and
in Canada, where's that?
Exactly. So, it's funny, but then you look and there's a lot of guys that went to, Hamilton or Wesleyan. I mean, there is a handful of people that got into coaching. There's Herb Hand from Hamilton. That's Herbie's out, was at Texas. I believe he's now at
UNC Charlotte, I think.
Yeah, Charlotte, and
Yeah.
Sean Ryan's in the NFL, Tim Burbanick. So I mean, from our place alone. But then there's guys that you look at and you find out, oh, they was from Wesleyan, or that part of it, or Trinity or Middlebury. So there's guys out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not as many, obviously, but there is a handful, and I'm very fortunate. I think that my experiences at Hamilton, I look back, really helped me. Didn't realize it at the time. Like I think all of us do. You get a little bit older and you reflect back and you say, man, Warren Wright, God rest his soul, was the speech teacher back when I was there. Man, I couldn't stand him. He rode my butt like you wouldn't believe. But in hindsight, I look back and God bless him. I mean, learned a lot more from him than I thought I did at the time. That's for sure.
Speaking of D3 coaches and D3 players in the league, the offensive line alone between you and Ali Marpet were well representing New York State Division III football.
Yeah,
is there a special place in your heart for Ali?
Oh yeah, we were on the boat when we were on the parade, and I turned to Ali. I said, "Not bad for two Division III guys, huh?" And we gave each other a big hug, one of them, but. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Allie went to Hobart. Hobart was actually my second choice.
Me too.
Yeah, so it was Hamilton or Hobart were the two schools that kind of boiled down to, and ended up going to Hamilton over Hobart. So it's just kind of funny.
That is funny. Well, I tell you, you mentioned social media. Half my social media feed leading up to the Super Bowl was Hamilton people rooting you on. Right. And then friends of mine, I have a good friend from high school who went to Hobart, and then people I knew as, going through the recruiting process there were Hobart people rooting on Allie. So there was a lot of support for you and Allie from the D3 crew.
No, that was awesome. I was happy for him. It was funny. My sister lives in Geneva, and there was a big article done on Allie, and she sent it to me. She sent me the article from the local newspaper, and I said, "Hey, Allie, you're a celebrity up in the Geneva Times." He just started laughing. And he goes, "I get more pub up there than I do anywhere else."
Does that well, I guess for him and what you see, I guess at some point an athlete's an athlete, right? And the background fades away and it doesn't matter anymore. I mean,
no, I think the transition, like to get at this level, when we're just talking about what so let's say that jump from Division III to the NFL, the competition level is probably something that I would say is probably the biggest thing for a guy to make that change. You know what I mean? The speed, the strength, if there's a guy like Allie, and there's always that one or two guys every year when you're, whether it's 1AA, all of that, but there's always a small school guy that you sit there and says might have a chance. And the biggest thing is just the speed of the game, and every player they go against is good. Everyone I used to, is funny, people say, "Oh, we don't want to at the Colts. We don't want you to come and, watch you when you're playing the worst team in the league at the time," or whoever it was, I said, "You don't get it. They got great players. Now they might be missing a quarterback or something's not right in the locker room, but there are no Alabamas. You're playing an Alabama every week, in the NFL. You're not playing, it's Alabama and they're playing some school that they paid $1 million to come, for a W on their roster, that all schools have an opportunity at, the 1A level and pay someone to come and whatever, that doesn't happen at this, at the NFL level. So I think that's the part that when a guy like Allie has to make that transition is, but every guy they go against is good, and then there's that percentage of guys that are like elite that you sit there as a whole different ball of wax, the Sues, the Vita Veys, the guys like that, the Aaron Donalds, that you sit there and go, okay, that's a notch above everybody else. You know what I mean? But even the guys that aren't at that elite level, they're all really good. They're all really strong and they're all really fast, So I think that's probably the biggest transition for a guy like that. The playbooks, I think, and I said this, obviously, I completely understand that colleges today's day and age have to do what they got to do to win games. That is any coach's deal. But there is a major gap right now with the RPOs and the systems that are run in colleges compared to what a lot of the NFL is doing. And you cannot afford your quarterback. And I think there's history to prove that when you look at some of the places of getting your quarterback hit on a consistent basis because you're running the RPO systems and that part of it. The D line runs as fast as the quarterback.
Right. It works at the college level, but you're not outrunning Aaron Donald. Yeah.
Right. You're not. Jason Pierre-Paul can run pretty damn fast. Shaq Barrett can move pretty well off the edge.
Right.
So when that quarterback can't get rid of the ball on an RPO and his option is to run, it's one thing when you're scrambling out of the pocket a few times, it's bad enough. But when you got to pull it because the system or the scheme tells you to, and now you got a chance to get whacked, you only have so many of those in you. And I think you look at RG3, he was going to be, when he came out of the draft with, Andrew Luck, which I was at the Colts when we took Andrew, 2012, and you look how long, RG3 lasted, and, he's in a system they're running quarterback draws and RPOs, and he got beat up, and he was a talented guy.
Yeah. There's, you think about, even look at your quarterback now, right? I mean, he's never been known as a mobile quarterback, but knew how to move in the pocket and avoid getting hit, which is part of his longevity, which are two completely different things.
Yeah. And I think also you look at Tom and you say, from a mental standpoint, he's unbelievable to know where pressure's coming and where he's got to get rid of the ball. You can go back to our very first clip of the game. And Spags ended up bringing a zero blitz, 3 guys up the middle, and not one of the 3 even came close because the ball was out. Tom knew it, the ball was out, and so when you're doing that, you can bring whoever, but then there's somebody open in coverage.
Yeah. You talked about the RPO systems coming out of college, and much is made about the quarterback gap that exists in those sort of systems. What do you see from an offensive line perspective, guys that are in those sorts of systems when they get to you? What do you need to train them on or retrain them on?
And it's funny, Dave, I think that's the other position. It's not just quarterbacks. I think the offensive line is hurt because everybody is taught, basically there's not a whole lot of pass protection anymore. It's about going fast. It's about, hey, just block inside zone. That's our pass protection. The quarterback's going to get the ball out quick enough or he'll pull and run it, unless it's third and extremely long, and then there's a little bit of drop back pass at that standpoint. So you get guys, when you start evaluating film, and, I've already got my list for the draft for next year. And I start looking at these guys, to find a true drop back protection clips and see what these guys can do. It's hard. There isn't a whole lot of those. And I think guys, offensive linemen, like Tristan came out of the University of Iowa, and because of their system and what they do offensively, he was farther ahead because there was a lot of similar, because Kirk Ferentz and the style they run there is more of a traditional, pro style offense. And I think there's some merit to that. I think there's a less of a transition for guys that come from those systems, but there are far and few of those systems still alive in college football.
So you mentioned the draft. What do you look for when you're now evaluating talent?
I think you look at it from each position from an O-line standpoint is a little different. Your tackles is, when I say different, from a size standpoint, from a length, all that I think plays into it. These guys on the edge, when you're looking from the tackle standpoint, the pass rushers are so talented, so quick, so the movement and ability to move is critical. The length with, when I say length, arm length, all that, because obviously getting your hands on a guy and be able to get him 9 to 10 yards up the field on the edge is important. And when you're a little bit shorter arm guy and that guy gets into you, it's hard to keep that width of the pocket. When you're looking at the guards inside, the game is a lot faster inside than it is outside on the edges. And I think in there, you got to have a guy that his reaction speed, but he's got to have the bulk and the size to be able to anchor. I mean, these guys are all 325, 340 pounds at D line now, and they try to collapse a pocket. Well, it's hard to hold up if you're 290, 285 pounds, unless you're trying to, your run game is going sideways and, different styles, the Ram style offense, San Francisco, that's a lot more outside, inside zone and nakeds and boots. And, they try to keep it in, third and manageable where there's not a whole lot of drop back and where the ball can come out quick. And, but so I think the styles of offense in the NFL kind of determines a little bit about what you're looking for up front. The center position, that guy has got to be smart. He's got to be able to run the show. To me, he's got to be able to handle the one-on-one rushers, pass rush and nose guard at times, because a lot of times you're not going to be able to get help to that guy up front. A lot of teams now are giving you what you call a 5-0 front, and they cover the three guys inside, and they're trying to say, hey, one of our five is going to get home before the quarterback gets rid of the ball, and there's no way to get anybody any help, unless you keep the back in all the time. And then, whoever has him in man coverage adds on and you're a man short again, so it's a chess game, so I think the size is critical that you look for. I think the mobility of O-linemen, you can't get guys that can't move anymore. Those days are over. And I think there's a mental capacity that these guys got to have. I think that there's it's very hard because there's so many adjustments. There's so many schemes that everybody carries into a ball game, that to have a guy that cannot think and be able to pick it up mentally, those type of guys and that are done a little bit, I've had talented players yet, athletically, or might be the best I've ever had. But at the end of the day, they just couldn't get it from a pickup mentally, and you put a play, for instance, out, you call a play in the huddle and it has a check with me, you see on TV all the time, guys making a second term call, let it roll, alert, whatever it might be. And that means it's going to a second play. And now, all the different looks that could come up from a defensive standpoint, those guys have about 2 to 3 seconds before that ball snap to know the adjustment on that. And if they can't make that transition mentally, they're not going to make it.
Yeah. It's something that most fans probably don't completely appreciate, because I think they, a lot of people think of it in terms of Madden football, where it's just run a play. But the human element of you just ran full speed into somebody, collision, have to get up quickly, catch your breath, and be mentally sharp enough to understand the play that just called. What do I need to do? And the three other things that happen, what read you have in front of you. Man, it's not easy.
No, and you look at, you brought up the quarterback, and you look at Tom and, guys, Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Mannings and guys, Drew Brees, that those guys get whacked. They get up, they get the, call in the huddle, through the helmet, they get back up, and everybody on defense is trying to hide, hold coverages, because they're so smart and they've seen so much that they know exactly that they're bluffing, and they know where they're going to go with the ball, or where the one-on-one is and where the matchups, you know what I mean? And it really is a chess match going on within the game that the normal fan has no clue of, all of that's going on for about, 4 to 6 seconds on an average, on that.
I think you have to say yes, but Brady, the best quarterback you ever seen?
Oh, without question. I mean, I've never been around a more competitive person in my entire life. He is, he wants to win in everything, and Tom is a great guy, in the building with everybody. I mean, he is as polite and as nice a person that you want to be around. And I always said about Andrew Luck that, Andrew was a better person, I thought, than he was a player. People don't see that part of him because they've got to be guarded, I think. And it's just really neat to see that side of him, about just how good a person these guys are.
So back to the draft for a moment. You got your eyes on any Hamilton hidden gems? You see take a flyer on a Hamilton player?
I got my list. There's nobody from Hamilton on the O-line list, unfortunately.
Are you connected to the program still? The Hamilton program?
I talk to Dave occasionally. Dave Murray. I think Dave's done a great job. It's hard, just from the standpoint that their season's going on, our season's going on.
Sure.
I went back before 2 years ago. I went back for the golf outing. I was finally able to make it work, and I went back, and I had a great time. I mean, saw a lot of friends, saw a lot of coaches. Played some really bad golf. But it had a ball, had a great time. Actually I was just talking to Dave Murray, texted me the other day and just said, "Hey Joe, congratulations." And I said, "Dave, thanks." I said, "I would love to, keep me informed about the golf outing. If you're able to have it with COVID or whatever, I would love to get back up there again this spring and go, and it's fun because I got a chance to meet guys that were, younger than me, that are already gone from Hamilton, and meet some new people and that. So for me, it was great. And, have an opportunity to give back a little bit to the program and that part of it.
Well, anytime you're written about in relation to Hamilton, it's always the first All-American ever from Hamilton. And now you'll have Super Bowl champion always added to that from here on out, which is pretty special.
Yeah. No, it was, I worked hard when I was there, and it was neat to see, like anything, whatever you put into to see it recognized. And it's the same with this, to have a chance to win a Super Bowl, which is the pinnacle of my profession. It's pretty special.
Anything you wish you had known looking back of your time at Hamilton through your incredible professional journey?
Yeah, I wish I would have put a little bit more time into the books. That part of it. I will say that Hamilton pushed me hard enough to realize after the fact that I should have done that. So I'm on my kids pretty good about doing a better job than I did, that part of it. But, I enjoyed my time up at Hamilton. I really did. I enjoyed it. I would say as an alum, and obviously football played such a huge part of what I did there. I do think that place, and Dave has really done a great job of trying to get the thing turned around, and there's been some really slim years of winning, but I think I wish the school would look at it. I think there's, I'll always look in my experience coaching in the Ivy League. In the Ivy League, obviously it speaks for itself. You've got some of the greatest institutions in the world, Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Penn and, Ford, whatever. And I think they've got a pretty good balance on academics and athletics, which I truly believe is important, having a good balance on that. But I think that Hamilton could do a better job in the sense of balancing the athletics and all athletics. I'm not just talking football, but being able to support the schools, improve the facilities, give the coaches a chance to get a handful of players into school, and help them, because all it does is it raises national awareness. That's free advertisement. When we were winning at Hamilton, when I was back there, we were on the front page of papers. We were nationally ranked. That's all free advertisement, Sure. And I think that, the school can figure out a right way. If the Ivy League can figure it out, I'm sure that the NESCAC can. And I look
Sure.
at Williams wins, Amherst, and I'm biased. I don't think that why can't Hamilton, when I refer to, yes, Hamilton wins in certain sports. Well, why can't they win in football? Dave Murray's doing a hell of a job there. He's getting it turned around, but it's it could be, I think, quicker with a little bit of help from the college.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I think certainly your success is calling attention to Hamilton football. I think you mentioned Sean, two Hamilton grads with Super Bowl rings as coaches. I think there's something to that. And, why can't we start create a coaching feeder system into football from the school,
Yeah. And I mean, and it's funny, just the one thing that's college football, and I really, it does not matter what level you're at, they say about keeping up with the Joneses. And when I went back to Hamilton the 2 summers ago, and I had a minor in art, and I look at the new facility they have at Hamilton, the art school they built up there, and it's unbelievable. It's for that size of school, and the campus with the other things that they've put on campus for the kids, we never had the weight room or the athletic facility they have to go and, work out and all that kind of stuff. And I look at the football field, and they put turf down, but it's the same press box, small stands, that they've had when I played. Sure. And I'm like, you telling me you cannot incorporate a better looking facility that would generate excitement when a kid walks on campus, that is going to look at Williams, Amherst, Trinity, and say, man, look at these facilities, in a great town, a great, education. I love the people up there. Why, but I'm just saying as a player, and I look back and see that when I walk on campus, it's a downer. Everything else is a plus. But when you're putting in all those hours as an athlete, I want to walk out and play in a nice facility, in
front of fans, and you get the students excited to come see something, and
exactly. And I think that's and until they realize that, in that, I think, and like I said, I keep pumping Dave up because I think he's done a great job recruiting. They're winning games. They're more competitive. They've been in a long, long time. But I think if people have to realize, that they're not I'm in this business. And for them to get over the hump as a coach, there's only so much you can do if you don't have the support from the top, especially in college football.
Well, I'm going to talk to President Whitman for this show in a few weeks. So I'm going to put in a word.
Great. I appreciate that.
I'm going to tell him the Super Bowl champion said so.
Well, good. I would love to get on the phone with him and have a conversation about it. So,
all right. I'll make sure that happens. I'm gonna make sure that happens.
I appreciate it.
Any advice for those listening who want to get into your line of work?
Yeah, I think the one thing is you can't be afraid of the journey. I look back at it. It's not going to be, it's like anything. Everybody, I think, today wants the fast food version of anything, of your career and all that. And I look back and, man, I've had 36 wonderful years, and I've met some unbelievable people. I remember games winning from Division III and losing. Sometimes I remember the losses worse than I remember the wins. But that's part of it. And I think that I've taken something from everywhere I've been, and I wouldn't trade that in for saying, hey, make the climb and be there, and I've really looked back and say, don't, enjoy the journey. Don't look for the fast, easy way out. And I think that overall I've been able to sustain a long period of time because of the route that I've taken, the people I've met, and it's just taken a little bit of a time to build it up.
All right, that's Joe Gilbert, offensive line coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Small correction in there. Joe and I had talked about Herb Hand, another alum who's had a successful career at the college level as an offensive line coach. And we said that he's moved on from Texas to UNC Charlotte. In fact, it was just announced that Coach Hand is actually going on to be the offensive line coach at the University of Central Florida. So congratulations and good luck to Coach Hand, who is also a fascinating person and someone I'm dying to get on the show. So for a small Division III program, some big names floating around in the coaching ranks. It's pretty exciting stuff. Great for the Hamilton program. Mentioned it briefly at the end of the conversation there, but Joe was the first All-American football player from Hamilton College and was actually a part of what's probably one of the most winningest runs in school history. First for Coach Steve Stetson and then for Coach Steve Frank at the beginning of his tenure. It was incredibly kind of Joe to dedicate the time that he did. We talked in a very small window of time he had of a vacation between the post-Super Bowl celebration and then back to work to get ready for the draft. And I was literally keeping him from a tea time as we were talking. Now, if I were him, working the way he works, coming off of that long playoff run, probably would have slept the entire time and wouldn't have time to talk to me for a podcast. But I was very appreciative to get to talk to him. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So my thanks to Joe Gilbert. Congratulations again. And good luck on going back to try and win number 2. You have been listening to Had I Known on WHCL-FM, Clinton, New York. HadIKnown.buzzsprout.com. Had I Known Show on social media. As always, my thanks to Dr. Michael Woods for supplying the music on this show. And once again, Doc is going to play us out. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Had I Known podcast show on your radio or take it to go.